muttering over and over, I'll alter him. I'll alter him. I'll alter him. How come it's mostly the wives laughing? Well, anyone who's been married longer than a week, we know how foolish it is to try to change your partner, right? Yes. But one of the things that we need to learn as we grow and mature in life is how to alter our life. We need to know how to graciously be able to move with the changes, with the tides of turn. And so one of the things that I think is important for us to understand is that if we're a creature of habit, are there any creature of habits in here? Raise your hand. Dan, I knew you'd raise your hand. That we know change is really difficult for us. We get in patterns. We get into some kind of a system of how we live our life. And then something happens that sometimes is beyond our control, and things kind of force us to adapt. Now, we can fight that, or we can move with it. Now, one guy that I have seen in the scriptures that I really admire that was a master of helping people to change is this guy named Nehemiah. Now, Nehemiah was in captivity at this time under the control of Persia. Originally, Babylon came and overcame Jerusalem, took all the people into captivity. Now, this Nehemiah was the cupbearer of the king of Persia. And so some people were brought back from Jerusalem to Babylon, and Nehemiah pulled them inside and said, "Hey, how are things back home?" And they go, "Oh, Nehemiah, it's awful. The walls are still crumbled. The gates are burned down. We are vulnerable to every attack of our enemies. It's just awful." And so Nehemiah, after praying, in Nehemiah 2:1, listen to what happens. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, good thing you didn't name your son that, when wine was brought for him, because the cupbearer would test the wine before the king would drink it, and if he lived, then they would give the wine to the king. How'd you like that for your job description? And he says, "I took the wine and gave it to the king. I had not been sad in his presence before, so the king asked me, 'Why does your face look so sad when you are not ill? This can be nothing but sadness of heart.' And I was very much afraid." The reason he was afraid, that it was very presumptuous for a servant to go to the king and ask the king for a favor. Usually, if you did that, you'd be beheaded. So there was reason he was afraid. But I said to the king, "May the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my fathers are buried lies in ruins and his gates have been destroyed by fire?" And the king said to me, "What is it you want?" Then I prayed to the God of heaven. Here's where risk comes in. And I answered the king, "If it pleases the king, and if the servant has found favor in your sight, let him send me to the city in Judah where my fathers are buried, so that I can rebuild it." So Artaxerxes, he releases Nehemiah. He even sends Nehemiah with some of his army to protect him on the journey from Babylon, which is modern-day Iraq, all the way to Jerusalem to start rebuilding the walls. Now, when he did this, there's always critics. Do you know that? So in Nehemiah 2:10, it says, when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official heard about this, they were very much disturbed that someone had come, listen to this, to promote the welfare of the Israelites. So sometimes change needs to happen for the benefit of other people. But when it sometimes goes against the grain of what we think is important, we can become very critical, can't we? Well, as you notice, we're doing a little bit of a break from Romans for just 1 week because I'm wanting to talk about a change that we need to make in this church. Because for the past 4 years, I have been like Nehemiah. I've been circling the walls for 4 years, and we've made numerous changes. But as we see here, look at what Nehemiah does when he comes to Jerusalem. In verse 11, he says, I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few men. I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. So he's secretly, privately, he's going into Jerusalem, and he's assessing what needs to happen. And he's doing this privately. He said, there were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on. By night, I went out through the valley gate toward the Jackal Wall and the Dung Gate, examining the walls of Jerusalem, which had been broken down, and its gates, which have been destroyed by fire. By the way, our tour going to Israel in October, you will see these very places, that they are definitely biblical, historical places. And he says, then I moved on toward the fountain gate and the king's pool, and there was not enough room for my mount to get through. So I went up the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally, I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. The officials did not know where I'd gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had said nothing to the Jews or the priests or nobles or officials or any others who would be doing the work. And then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. So here's what he assesses. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God upon me and what the king had said to me. And they replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. So what we see here with Nehemiah is he didn't make any rash decisions. He prayed about it. He sat on it. He circled the walls for 3 days, and he assessed what the needs were. And then he told the officials what they needed to do and what he had come for. And because God's hand was in it, God sent the people alongside of him to start rebuilding the walls. And so what we need to do, or what we've been doing actually for the last 4 years here, is we have, in a sense, been rebuilding the walls of Canyon View. And there's been some great things that has happened in the last 4 years. Actually, August 6, 2007 is when Jane and I pulled up with our moving trailer to Grand Junction. So it's almost exactly 4 years that we've been here. Now, in those 4 years, as I have continually been circling the walls and seeing where the needs are here to help the church to become healthy and strong and secure, is one of the first things we did was we made an elder team. That we have an elder board of 5 incredibly gracious, mature men that are really committed to the spiritual health of this church. And then we designed a finance board that is looking over the finances and the legal issues of the church. And we meet monthly together. And then we began to implement the values of the Vineyard. And one of the most important ones that we have implemented through going through the book of Mark when we first got here is the theology and the practice of the kingdom. And what that translates into is doing the things that Jesus did and doing the things he told us to do, which are quite simply to proclaim the kingdom of God, to pray for the sick, to cast out demons, and to raise the dead, but we haven't gotten there yet. So anyway, that's what you have been doing, that many of you have begun to start risking yourself and actually going to your friends or family and saying, can I pray for you? And we've seen great miracles, that we've actually seen God do amazing things because of your faith. Then we really grabbed hold of James 1:27 about true, authentic Christianity is those who care for the widows and the orphans. And so ShareFest is a great example of how we go out and we serve the poor and the widows, and we go to their homes and we do repairs around their homes and clean up their homes. I think that's a great thing of caring for the widows. And then many of you have really grasped hold of the plight of the fatherless, and we, in the last 4 years, we've seen over 50 kids become adopted into loving homes or in foster homes. And so we have some amazing families here that have really latched onto God's heart for the fatherless. We've really focused on preaching through the Bible because we want you to become biblically literate. We want you to have good, solid theology so you will stand firm in your faith. So we went through Mark, we went through Acts, and now we're going through Romans. And we'll continue to go through these seminal books of the Bible so that you really understand what you believe and why. We started focusing on discipleship. The announcement you saw about the men's groups, that one of the things that I think is important for a church to really go strong and vibrant is we got to build up our men. We got to help our men to grow strong, to be good leaders in the community, to be good dads, and to be good husbands. And the last thing that we've done is we've really continued to push the equation of just having compassion for the poor. So our backpack programs and what we're doing at Kimwood Park is you guys just continuing to give the resources, and the things that we've done with Convoy of Hope of One Day to Feed the World is, man, you guys have really grabbed hold of sharing your resources so that those that are less privileged and those that are marginalized can truly be cared for. And so those are great things, aren't they? And so the wall has been built up in those areas, and I think that's what makes Canyon View what it is. And so as I continue to circle the walls, one of the most important things for me that I think is a part of my job as a senior pastor is really assuring the spiritual, the relational, and the mental health of our staff, of our team that serves you guys. And so as we've been here for 4 years, I've been watching. And one of the challenges that the staff have, the ones in particular that have to be here Saturday night and both services Sunday morning, is that they give up their weekends for the church. Now, I want you to imagine being in their shoes, and some of you may already be in situations like this, is imagine that your wife or your husband works full-time, Monday through Friday, and you have to work Saturday and Sunday. What that translates into in reality is you never have a full day off with your spouse. Now, your kids grow and they're in elementary school. Your kids go to school Monday through Friday, so they're gone all day, Monday through Friday, and then you're out of the equation Saturday and Sunday. And so you literally do not have one day off with your children. Now, you follow this course down over the years with these guys, and what you see is that is a contributing factor to bring burnout in our staff. Now, churches have been notorious for eating up and spitting out their staff. And, you know, it's just amazing of how this culture that we've created here really is doing that to our people. And so this was one of those things that began to really gnaw at me because I love these guys. And I want the most for their marriages and their families. And then I look at research. And I look at some of the quotes of some of these guys. George Barna is the president founder of the Barna Research Group. And he made this comment. He said, while it may be alarming to discover that born-again Christians are more likely than others to experience divorce, that pattern has been in place for quite some time. Even more disturbing, perhaps, is that when those individuals experience a divorce, many of them feel their community of faith provides rejection rather than support and healing. But the research also raises questions regarding the effectiveness of how churches minister to families. The ultimate responsibility for a marriage belongs to the husband and wife, but the high incidence of divorce within the Christian community challenges the idea that churches provide truly practical and life-changing support for marriages. Now, we have in this church, I think, one of the most dynamic marriage ministries in the whole valley, thanks to the leadership of Leslie Holshoe. I mean, many of you have experienced the blessing of your marriage being built up, and some of you, your marriage has even been saved. But what are we doing to the marriages of our staff? Now, Jane said, you better tell the people that we're doing okay. Jane and I are really doing okay. So as I read these statistics, don't read into it, oh, Kirk's in trouble, okay? So I found this survey from the Schaeffer Institute, Francis Schaeffer Institute. These are really interesting. It said 808, or 77% of the pastors we surveyed, felt they did not have a good marriage. That's astounding. 802, or 71% of pastors, stated they were burned out and they battled depression beyond fatigue on a weekly and even a daily basis. I used to be 6'4" before I became a pastor. I mean, it just wears on you and beats you down, man. And 399, or 38% of pastors said they were divorced or currently in a divorce process. 315, or 30%, said they had either been in an ongoing affair or a one-time sexual encounter with a parishioner. That's amazing. Now, George Barna, going back to George Barna Institute, they did a survey. They said 1,500 pastors leave the ministry each month due to moral failure, spiritual burnout, or contention in their churches. That's why pastors have this saying that they say quite lovingly, sheep have sharp teeth. 50% of pastors' marriages will end in divorce. 80% of pastors feel unqualified or discouraged in their role as pastor. 50% of pastors are so discouraged that they would leave the ministry if they could, but have no other way of making a living, and they feel trapped. Now, couch these statistics with what Paul exhorts the church of how leaders are supposed to be in 1 Timothy 3, verse 1 through 4. He said, here is a trustworthy saying. If anyone sets his heart on being an overseer, which would be a deacon or a pastor, an elder or pastor, he desires a noble task. Now the overseer must be above reproach, the husband of but one wife, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not given to drunkenness, not violent but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money, and under 5'4". That's what my Bible says. He must manage his own family well and see that his children obey him with proper respect. So, with all the things that I've just said, if we throw it all in the mix, these were all the major contributing factors to help us to come to the point where we have decided to move the Saturday night service to Sunday night, starting on August 28th. Now, here was the clincher for me. I'm just sharing my heart with you guys. Wade, our oldest son, who's 22, he had known we'd been praying about this for a number of months. And without any solicitation of my prompting, he came to me about 3 weeks ago. And he says, Dad, are you going to make that change from Saturday to Sunday? And I said, wait, gosh, I don't know. I'm really ambivalent about it because I know there's some wonderful people Saturday night that, man, that's their service. And, you know, one of the scariest things for pastors to do in a church is implement change because people hate change. You know, it's their baby. And so, quite honestly, I told him, you know, I'm just kind of chicken I'm afraid to pull the trigger on this one. Because the fear is that there's a fear of the unknown. And we don't know, are we going to lose Saturday night service completely? And so Wade goes, can I speak into that? And I go, sure. And he says, Dad, the reason that Joey and I grew up to love God and love the church is it never took you away from us as our dad. He said, when I was in school and I was wrestling, you and Mom came to every wrestling tournament. You were there from 9 in the morning till 6 or 7 at night to the last match. Dad, whenever I played soccer, you coached us. You were at every game. When in the winter, all 4 of us would go skiing together. Dad, we loved that time with you. And he said, Dad, you're not there for Gertie and Gracie. He says, that schedule of you needing to go Saturday and Sunday is you're not taking the time with Gertie and Gracie. And he said, I see a train wreck coming. And anyone who's been in the church for any length of time, there's just kind of this acronym of PKs, Pastor's Kids. We've seen some pretty weird ones. And I think one of the reasons is because their dads or their moms are totally taken away from the family because of the demands of the church. So if we do one simple change of just moving the Saturday night service to Sunday night, here's what it translates into, is our staff get to spend one whole day with their wife and their kids and be totally available to them. Because Jane has told me, she goes, about 1 o'clock, you're gone on Saturday. She said, you're checked out. You're beginning to start dialing in to the Saturday night service. And I said, I know, I can't help it. And so she says, you really aren't here on Saturday. You're just gone. And so, as I said, this decision is really made, it's not just about me. You think of our Seth, our children's pastor, his wife, Michelle, works Monday through Friday. Seth has to be here every Saturday and Sunday. We have one of our staff people that when we made the announcement to our staff on Monday, he called his wife, and he said that she started weeping in thankfulness because they haven't had a day off together in 5 years. And so here we are as a church, and we're promoting healthy families and healthy marriages, and we have a system that is so contradictory to that. But all we need to do is one simple change. Just changing Saturday to Sunday. And so I think of Deuteronomy 5:14, because I really believe this is a biblical principle that this shift is directing us towards. In Deuteronomy 5:12, it says, observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. Because some people think, well, honoring the Sabbath is going to church. That is a main part of that we need to come to church so that we can worship God corporately and we can be fed spiritually. But he says, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. And listen to this. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your what? Son or daughter. Meaning the Sabbath is supposed to be a time that the family rests together. One of the things that I believe is important in being a good husband and being a good father or mother is that it's not just quality time, but it's quantity time with those that you love. Just spending 5 minutes a day with your spouse, that's not going to carry you very far in the long haul. You need to have some concentrated time together. And I think that is the thing that we really want to make this change so that our staff can continue to grow and have great marriages and great families. Now, some of you are thinking, well, they only work on the weekends. Wade, when he was in junior high, when we were in the church in Canyon City, he had to do a paper. And in the paper, it says, what does your dad do at your job? And so he wrote in his paper, well, he's on the phone a lot and he's in a lot of meetings. But there's a lot more to being a pastor or on staff here. These guys work incredibly hard. Their week is filled with study, with prayer time, with meetings. They're doing trainings. They're counseling with people. They're in meetings. There's planning. There's time to set up. There's phone calls. And there's meetings. There's funerals. There's weddings. There's visiting the sick and praying for them. And then there's more meetings. So as you can tell, there's a lot more that goes into a weekend service than just what you see. And there's also the impact on our volunteers. Like Ronnie was talking about, this amazing folks here that help with worship. You may not know this, but they come at 5:30 on Thursdays, and for an hour and a half, they're practicing. Then they get here at 4:30 on Saturday to practice again, and then they do worship for Saturday night. They come back at 8:30 on Sunday morning, and they're here all morning with you guys. So this is interesting because I remember this as we were looking at this decision. In Canyon City, when the ministry got to the point that we needed to add a third service, and we knew it probably needed to be a night service on the weekend, I said, hey guys, Canyon View does Saturday night. Why don't we do Saturday night? And our worship guy at that time, God bless his soul, he said, we can't do it Saturday night. I go, why? They're doing it. He said, because we're going to kill our volunteers. That means they have to give up their Saturdays and their Sundays, and they don't have a day off during the week. He said, we can't do that, Kirk. I said, didn't think of that. So we went to Sunday night. And Sunday night in Canyon City is one of the most exciting services of the whole Sunday morning. So I think it's one of those things that, to me, it's a no-brainer. But it was one of those things that we had to really prayerfully seek the Lord. And it's interesting. After we made the decision, the Lord, in my devotion times, has just over and over been confirming to me that he's leading us to this. I just have this incredible peace that this is the right decision, and it's for the betterment of our staff and for the whole church. Because one thing that happens, you have healthy staff, you're going to have amazing ministry. Because they're going to have the energy and the excitement to lead. So some of the other positives that I see of this change. And by the way, with this change, we are looking at doing the same service that you'll see Sunday morning, the same thing Sunday night, probably do it at 6 o'clock. So here's the decision that we made, or why. Another reason is what I call the weekend warriors. Now, we have a culture that is outdoor recreationally based, don't we? I mean, we can't fight that. We got Lake Powell 200 miles away. We got the Mesa an hour away. And so people here admittedly live here by choice because they love the outdoors. And so what do most people do in the summer? They long to go out with their families and go camping, fishing, boating, whatever. And I can't condemn anyone for that. So what would happen? Because we actually have people that literally tell us in May, I'll see you in September, because they're gone every weekend. What would happen if we had a Sunday night service that they could go and do what they want to do on the weekend, guiltless, and come back Sunday night and experience the presence of God in worship and hearing the teaching from the Word? I think that's a win. Now, another thing that we're looking at very strongly is making Sunday night, really promoting it as a family event. So the high school, the middle school and high school are considering, and they're praying about this, and they're going to meet with their teams, about moving their Wednesday night outreach to Sunday night. Now, what will happen during the school year is there are a number of teens that are really involved in their schools. So they're in sports, or they're in the musicals, or in the plays. I mean, have you ever been in a play? How many hours you have to spend practicing for that? I mean, it's crazy. And then you have people that are into music, various things, that their school